Welcome to the show that teaches you the things your parents and teachers are too afraid to. The Helios blog. Today, HasanAbi hates JD Vance. What a surprise.
The reason she's alone is because she's difficult.
Women are not accepting the bare minimum.
Women fuck men they respect.
All the women who say things like, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, like, y'all impress me.
Women just gaslight each other and say what they want to hear.
And it was notable that he didn't answer the question. Instead, what he said is the vice presidential candidate doesn't matter. I mean, what did you
Ooh, that's gotta hurt, man. He did say that. Big L.
make when you heard him not answer that directly?
Well, he said that a million times, both in
he
private
said the
and
part
in
about
public.
But he's asked really directly,
right.
are you ready?
Most people, oh, come on, John. He's right. Most people, 99% of the country, they don't vote on who the vice presidential nominee. They're voting for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris, not for JD or Tim Walz, right? But what I think that he does believe, because he made it the main focus of his vetting process, is, do I think this person can be president on day one if, God forbid, something happens? Yes. So I absolutely am sure that Donald Trump is confident in my abilities. I also think that he's right. That
Ooh, I mean, he deserves it. He's such a conniving, little backstabbing, carpet-bagging worm that, like, that's exactly the type of person that Donald Trump wanted. Oh, it's a real Theodore Cruz moment here. Cuck chair.
politics of this really don't matter that much.
One of the proposals it's in the
What did you say? The politics don't matter all that much? Okay.
platform, you've talked about it, Trump's talked about it, as a mass deportation. Now, I know he said you'll start with the easy ones, the criminals, people commit crimes, deport them. But he said deporting 15 to 20 million people. How do you actually do that?
Well, John, we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies.
But how are you going to get 10 to 15 to 20 million people
Well,
out
the
of the
first
country?
thing you have to do is to stop the bleeding, stop the open border, get Kamala Harris out of there, and actually re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy, rebuild or finish Donald Trump's border wall. And
Yeah, so apparently, Kamala was supposed to be, she was supposed to be in charge of the southern border, and she failed spectacularly. And that's the person who's supposed to be the president, a person who can't even handle one border. How do you handle the rest of the world then?
And you do that and you stop.
It's pretty funny to be like, nobody cares about the VP, and then be like, Kamala Harris was the principal responsible party for the border as the vice president. I think holding their feet to the fire about mass deportations and what that looks like is important. And I think the Republicans do understand that that is going to look like straightforward fascist narratives that will cause Americans to take a second look at the mass deportations proposals and be grossed out by it, which is why he's like, oh, we just got to stop the bleeding.
Now, you're right. Once you do that, once you stop Kamala Harris's open border policies, you've got to do something with the people who are already here. And I think that you take a sequential approach to it. You are going to have to deport some people. If you're not willing to deport a lot of people, you're not willing to have a border when there are 20 million illegal aliens in our country.
10 to 15 million people, this is like, I mean...
Well, John, I think that's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay, so,
Yeah, it's just like Hitler when talking about the number of Jews that he wants to melt in concentration camps. It's a wrong attitude. It's just 6 million. I mean...
Okay. Yes, that's a fair comparison, Hasan. That's a fair comparison.
When you think about it, it's just 6 million. It's fine. It's like, it's an insane thing to say. You are talking about 15 million humans, dude. Like human beings with children, human beings with lives, human beings with homes, human beings with like goals.
People that cheated and lied to get across the border. But, you know what I heard is actually without the migrant workers, United States products would be much more expensive at the grocery store. So which do you want more? The grocery store being cheap or the migrant workers not being there?
Aspirations, like you cannot just hand wave that aside.
Knock on doors and ask people for their papers.
Again, but let me finish. I think there's a wrong.
Bro, I think I got some motherfuckers producers watching me. I'm just saying.
To take of it. Okay,
So you don't knock on doors and ask people for their papers.
Again, but
what do you do?
let me finish. I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that, and then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if
let him flail. This is great. Ask him how you are going to deport 15 million people, bro. How are you going to do that? You're going to knock on doors, ask them for their papers? What is that going to look like? Equating deportations to genocide is so dishonest, big guy. You know, like Hitler wanted to originally also potentially deport the Jews too. Like, it's not like they were immediately like, no, we're just going to start doing the murder tomorrow. That's not how this works. You build up to it. You can't really be like, yeah, we want to kill 15 million people. Surely when you take 15 million people with like American citizen children, with jobs, with, car payments that participate in the economy. Oh, the Madagascar. Yeah. Madagascar plan was a plan proposed by Nazi German government to forcibly relocate the Jewish population of Europe to.
Again, what bothers me is that Hasan is making like a direct comparison between some guy who doesn't matter at all in the United States to the Germans of 1940. Like, this is not a fair comparison. He's not a bad guy like that. He really isn't. He's an irrelevant guy who Hasan is now painting to be literally like, okay, when you paint people like this in this light, do you not realize that it actually makes what the Germans did in 1940 seem not so bad, right? You keep comparing people that are irrelevant and will do nothing of the sort, nothing anywhere near as bad, right? Oh, we're going to actually close the border, which we wanted to be closed the whole time. Wow. Yes. You're evil. You're trying to use Agent Orange on these people. It's like, that's not what they're doing. Please, stop being so disingenuous.
To the island of Madagascar. Guys, it's always, deportations are notoriously a perfectly valid, perfectly permissible, perfectly peaceful situation. Who amongst us has not originally had mass deportation programs that they then turned into mass ethnic cleansing campaigns in general?
if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly,
at what point does immigration become excessive, if ever? Immigration is a thing that would never actually be a problem for the receiving country if the receiving country was actually utilizing and properly processing all of the migrants that are coming in. There is no lump of labor. The issue here is that there is a two-tier immigration system. There's a two-tier labor system. Migrants coming in mean that there is need for more houses. You have to build more houses now. Who's going to build the houses? Who's gonna transport the materials? Those are workers. Okay, you need to make better roads in order to connect these towns that you are building. Who's going to make the roads? The people that you are bringing into the country create more economic opportunities for the people that are already in the country.
Actually, what Hasan is saying is correct. Basically, the reason why the grocery store, fruits and vegetables, at least in the South, are cheaper is because the workers that come in from Mexico and so on, anyway, whatever country south of the United States that comes in, they're paid less than minimum wage, right? And that cost is then, it goes up to the consumer, right? The consumer receives the benefit of that. So the migrant worker gets screwed so that the average consumer in the United States doesn't. Right, at least in the South. There you go.
This is the reason why, in the simplest terms, there is no lump of labor. The lump of labor is a fallacy that goes back to like the 18th century when economists were like, there is no such thing. The problem with migrants, the problem in air quotes with migrants, is completely born out of right-wing hysteria. Right-wing hysteria that ties back to white flight and other white supremacist attitudes and values.
Now, here's the more important thing, John. Why are we talking about inflation? Why aren't we talking about the fact that groceries are unaffordable thanks to Kamala Harris's policies, and so is housing? We've talked a little bit about the border. Why aren't we talking about the fact that the entire world is on fire because Kamala Harris's foreign policy, she's just asleep at the wheel? We have a set of plans. You talk about sticking to the facts. Donald Trump and I have a set of plans to lower the cost of housing and food, to bring peace back to the world with American leadership. That is all that we want to do, and I think it's telling.
Listen to his words. Donald Trump does this as well. The reason why Republicans act like they are peaceful doves is because the Democratic Party has completely lost the plot on being the party that used to advocate for peace. They did this in the same exact way as to how they completely capitulated to the right-wing framing on immigration. I saw this in my own lifetime. Post 9/11. Surely, of course, there were Democrats that were always, warmongers themselves. But you have to remember, from the Clinton era onward, the Democratic Party has actively switched its attitude towards more war. Republicans, on the other hand, despite the fact that they are obviously warmongers and genuinely bloodthirsty, at least see a benefit in presenting themselves.
Come on. Yes, the person that doesn't agree with your political opinion, they're bloodthirsty evil vermin. Yeah, okay, Hasan. Totally not opinions that are said just to gain money and attention. Totally not. No, you're a 100% genuine non-shill, Hasan. 100%.
As the ones who will bring about world peace. Very important to understand.
I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Oh, he did say that. Bro, Trump is so awesome. He can't stand being perceived as unintelligent, but more importantly than that, he can't stand not being perceived as popular. He can definitely stand being perceived as like violent and aggressive and all of these things that invoke power. But the moment that you call him a weirdo, he crumbles, dude. He's like, nah, they were talking about JD Vance, actually, not me. They were saying that about.
Yeah. I mean, we know that Trump is a narcissist, right? So things that affect his ego, that make him seem irrelevant, that's not gonna...
JD.
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to...
You're such a cuck. This is precisely why he was selected to be VP. Because he is such a gross little worm, dude. Oh, he just took it. Bro, he just ate that. Oh my God. JD Vance is... I know exactly what photo this is. Yep, this is JD, baby. Oh, embarrassing. To be fair, there's not really much he could do to fix that, to salvage that, because it's so obvious. I mean, he literally said Trump can't be racist because he called wife Usha beautiful. I don't know how you just allow yourself to be embarrassed over and over again in front of the entire nation. I can tell you, it's when you're a careerist douchebag with...
When what you care about is money, like Hasan, you don't care when you say dumb crap because you know what the bottom line is.
No discernible position beyond having proximity to power. JD Vance was already a carpetbagger. He rose to prominence by literally selling out the Appalachian people. His own people. He called his mother a crackhead in his book and said she was gross. He said the mountain people have a unique way of just being resentful and angry. Part of that was dire economic prospects that were presented to them, but also the other reason was because they just did not have any sort of real attitude towards picking themselves up by their bootstraps. They're all uniquely fent-addicted monsters. He's gross, dude. And liberals loved it. Liberals were like, oh my God, please tell me more about how these mountain people are just like racist monsters who are all fent-addicted losers. Please tell us more about that. Oh, sanctioned one who knows how to whisper to the white working class.
Freaking disaster. Again, man, the necklace says it all. Like I
But
don't know
I
what
think
else
that
to
it
say.
is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is
Dude, that's not gonna work, bro. Nope, you can't do that. Number one, he's still getting his talking points from Twitter, and worst of all, not just Twitter, but Donald Trump Jr. I saw this and I actually responded to it earlier today while we were streaming. I like kind of let that slide in there. Totally normal to greet your wife with a firm handshake and bro hug / backslap. Tim Walz isn't weird at all, guys. So that was like something that Donald Trump Jr. thought was a good line of attack, to which I responded in the bitchiest way possible. Obviously, that was maybe a little too bitchy, but also a lot of this is about how people read people on camera. You cannot, no matter how hard you try, make a narrative like that stick with a guy like Tim Walz, because he doesn't read like that. He reads like a regular Midwestern dad. He reads too normal in comparison to the rest of the DC bureaucrats. And I'm not just saying that because I personally like him or like his background. I'm just also looking at the polls. He was a relatively lesser known governor who was very popular in his state. He was pretty popular in his state. But beyond that, in every state that he has appeared so far, he's leading in the approval ratings by like multiple digits at this point.
Sorry, I don't even know who this guy is. Is he the vice president for Kamala Harris?
Comparison to even Kamala Harris. He's got like a plus 11 boost on Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris is a +2. So obviously people are responding to it positively as well. My normie friends who despise Joe Biden are genuinely elated with Walz. And the thing is, you can't look at that and be like, that's weird. That's the weird thing, actually. This guy who like hugged his wife after delivering his speech, shook her hand and then hugged her after his speech. That's the real weird thing, not us. When Trump is the the presidential candidate for your party. Trump is notoriously odd when it comes to his relationship with his trophy wife. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. Like, it doesn't work. It will always fall on deaf ears. At the end of the day, we have primal lizard brains and we respond to shapes and colors on screen. So if something is so obviously in the opposite direction, you can't pull normal people in the margins into believing that. That is why, yeah, dude, they're coping about numbers like this. Michigan net favorables, Walz +14, Harris +2, Vance -6, Trump -10. Vance -11. Anyone that is like close enough to Ohio, which also despises Vance, is gonna hate Vance. Walz +11, Harris +2. I told you.
Dana, look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire...
He sounds like a career politician.
Campaign has not been about here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and JD Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't know.
Oh no, he your man. He big mad, Chad. He mad as fuck right now. Oh, they're just name calling us. No, that's the whole point of weird, dumbass. It's weird that you guys are hyper focusing on random nonsensical bullshit that you're lasered in on that ain't nobody gives a fuck about, instead of policies that actually help people. That's the whole point of the weird campaign. That's it. That's the whole point. So you can't reframe that now. You can't run away from that. Just be weird, bro. I mean, you are. You literally can't stop yourself. You just said, oh, I'm not weird. Tim Walz, he gave his wife a handshake. That's weird. Yeah. Okay. I'll look at this.
Okay. So, no comment. But by the way, I said this in a previous video as well. Weird is what pretty girls call loser guys they're not attracted to. So the campaign of he's weird, what it really is it's a dog whistle to women. These guys are not attractive. Don't vote for them. Right? That's what weird really means.
This later. I gotta finish this JD Vance thing. It's actually kind of fire. It's better than I thought it was going to be. One, Dana Fash is actually eating his ass alive, and 2, he is just not doing well in this interview at all.
Notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about policy
positions
versus
about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies
Please.
in this interview. You have been on the campaign trail.
Yeah, she said you started talking about the policies in this interview, and then resorted to saying that I'm not weird. Tim Walz is weird. Look at the way he shook his wife's hand, bro. I said this earlier, and I saw another chatter actually repeat it in the chat as well. One thing that they haven't done yet, I brought this up before, which I think will inevitably happen, is talk about how like JD Vance or I keep saying JD Vance. Tim Walz's sperm is weak, and that's why they had to do IVF. It's coming.
I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did.
Bros, this guy is like Republican Buttigieg, yes. And even Buttigieg has like a little bit more charisma than he does. Buttigieg has like more, I can't believe I'm saying this. Buttigieg has more swag than JD does. Straight up. They both got that dog in them though, like the ambition. It's poison. And you can tell when a dude is like such a careerist that is just so desperate for a crumb of power.
He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken.
Like this crazy, bro. Donald Trump literally dodged the draft, #1, which by the way, I think was good. It's good.
By the way, listening to JD makes me literally want to fall asleep. He's boring. But aside from this, how is he in any way comparable to what happened in the 1940s? Explain that one to me.
Good that he did that. Why the fuck should you die for a genocidal campaign? Like, that's insane. #2, everybody, including Donald Trump and JD Vance, run on the anti-Iraq war narrative. So why the fuck are you like, oh, I don't understand. This like 50-year-old guy was supposed to go himself in Iraq. It's really fucked up that he didn't. But we also simultaneously believe and say that it was unjustifiable and wrong, and many Americans died for no reason. These two things don't make sense. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying?
I spoke to a woman named Kate Cox. She lives in Texas.
Sure.
She was 20 weeks pregnant. Her fetus was diagnosed with a disease called, it was a deadly genetic condition called trisomy 18. She said that carrying the pregnancy, she was told this by her doctors, to term, if the fetus even survived, would hurt her chances for having more children, which she and her husband desperately wanted. Why is not allowing her to end that pregnancy helpful?
Scorching, dude. Scorching and torching. This is the type of shit that makes me really angry with mainstream media, because they show.
It's, again, this dumb crap is just the exception that proves the rule, right? In a population, if you have, 1,000 people out of your 220 million population is, has a condition, like, is going to experience the unfortunate genetic consequences of, life. And the policy doesn't necessarily have to be affecting these people, right? So, for example, when you say, I want to make it illegal for you to, A-word babies, you could put a little caveat, unless they have a severe genetic disease, right? You could, unless they're the, unless that baby has happened because the guy did something illegal. Okay, so these things can exist all at the same time.
During the Trump administration, that they do have the capacity to make adversarial journalism happen. That's why it makes me extra mad when Dana Fash comes out and uses that selective power on like anti-genocide protesters. You know what I mean? It's so frustrating. They never do this to insurance and healthcare executives, right? They never do this to like big pharma. They never do this to bankers. They only do this to like select few Republicans on ideological boundaries when they're annoyed with them. And it makes me so mad. You have the power. You can go ultra instinct all day, every day, but you never lock in when it comes to, I don't know, people who hold institutional power that are ruining people's lives on a daily basis. You only do this with the weakest people in society, people that have no representation. Very frustrating.
Well, first of all, Dana, my heart breaks for this woman. I don't know her personally. I've certainly heard the story, and our heart breaks for her. And we want people to have healthy, happy families. And it's extremely unfortunate that sometimes, you know, medicine, the act of God, whatever happens, it just doesn't work out. And what the president has said, I think, very clear.
To be fair, I think Vance is the representation for weird little freaks, Lamau. No, it's not enough. I'll just say it like this. I think CNN and all these other outlets actually see Donald Trump as a potential threat to the institutions, or what remains of the institutional stability. So yeah, they bring out their A game when it comes to like on Donald Trump, and on JD Vance is an extension of on Donald Trump. They obviously love JD Vance when he wasn't Donald Trump's vice president. The problem is, I'm gonna get back to his insane response in a second, because holy that's a really bad response. The problem is there are so many severe inequalities in this nation. It's deeply frustrating to me that they do not address those issues. They do not address those problems, and they only have this smoke for like.
What bothers me about politics, especially in 2024, is really it doesn't do anything. It's like useless. People just fight over, you know, Republican or Democrat. Nothing ever changes. All the prices go up, inflation goes up, nobody can afford a house, you know, nobody can afford the food that they used to be able to afford, and so on. And they say they'll change it, and literally nothing will change. Because politics in 2024 is just a lie, right? And the only people that would believe it are the people that would watch TV, right? People that are able to be brainwashed still. But people that know anything about anything, they don't even watch TV anymore, because it's full of basically propaganda, right? All these ads that are aimed at tricking you, you know, politicians talking, but nothing ever changes, right? And then ultimately the conclusion that people draw is nothing that I like, whether the country goes conservative, Democrat, or whatever other direction it goes in, nothing will ever be better for the average person. The only way the average person can be okay in 2024 is to get out of it themselves, because government doesn't do anything for the common person, and it's never been more true than today. It's like in the Roman Empire, right? Like if you wanted to be somebody, it doesn't matter if Caesar is in power or Pompey or whoever. You yourself need to join the army. You yourself need to become, you know, a higher status person. And if you fail, well, you fail. But there is no other option for the average person. You can either remain an average loser that never has anything and never will have anything, or you can try at least to go for more. All right, let's end the video there. Hit the like, hit the sub, hit all the notifications. Buy my books like Hunter M, Adrian Ott, Tom and Bobby, Dylan, Renaissance Press, Brian, Andrew, Alan, Armani, and Nicholas. Shout outs to you, most recent purchaser of both my books, Strategist Guide to Seduction and Quotes to Live By. Thank you. My books can be bought at bit.ly/heliosbooks. And if you'd like coaching services like Nick H, just message me at my email. That's theheliosblog@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, guys, especially if you listen to the end. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.